Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to interview Dr. Eric Endlich, the founder of Top College Consultants. Today, Dr. Endlich is going to offer some tips to help you choose the right college. Dr. Endlich, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So early on in the college application process, students are advised to create a short list of schools they would like to attend. What are the primary factors that students should consider when making that list?
Well, there's really a lot of potential factors. Let me just touch on four. One would be geography. Previously, had lots of students who would be willing to fly anywhere in the country to go to school, sometimes to Canada or Europe. But now with the pandemic, a lot of parents are saying, we don't want you to plane flight away. We want you within a 3-hour drive, 4-hour drive. So geography is one. Second one would be cost. Students shouldn't be applying to colleges that their families can't afford to send them to. And that's a complicated one, which maybe we'll circle back to. That is a constraint. If your parents say it's got to be under X amount per year, then that is going to set a certain pool to look at. But that's really a more complex topic. Third would be what you want to study. So if you know that you want to study biotechnology or video game design, that is going to narrow the field of potential colleges because not all colleges offer those majors. So that's pretty straightforward. But you might say, well, what if I have no idea what I want to study? That's actually a different issue, because if you have no idea, and that's totally fine. In the US, lots of students go into college undeclared. That's not true as much in, say, the UK. Totally fine to not know, but then you want to pick a college that has a lot of options. So that might be a large public university or a large private university. Most of the really big schools are public, but there are some large private ones. Or if you know that it's a subset, if you're like, well, I know it's going to be a STEM topic. It's going to be something in engineering or biology or something in the health sciences, that you might still be able to narrow it down to, say, STEM-focused schools. Or if you say it's going to be something humanities, it might be English, it might be history, it might be poli-sci, you could probably go to a small liberal arts college that offers all of those. And the last one I want to mention, the last factor, is the hardest one to figure out, and that is the culture or vibe of a school. And this is easily overlooked because families are looking at cost and location and majors, but it's got to be the right fit. If you're a student who is, let's say, very politically active, very politically progressive, and you end up in a school where students are very apolitical or maybe very conservative, you're going to be very uncomfortable. You want to be somewhere where you can make friends, where you can feel like you connect, you're on the same wavelength as other students. And so you've got to find that right fit in terms of the culture. And that is much trickier, but it's just as important as the other factors.
Great. Touring is a great way to get a feel for a specific institution. Do you have any advice that could help students make the most out of their in-person tours?
Sure. As we all know, in-person tours are not as easy to come by as they were before the pandemic started, but a few things to keep in mind, and there are still colleges doing them, and hopefully that will increase as we go along. Number one, take pictures. Most students have a smartphone. Take pictures as you go along, because if your family is taking you during spring break of junior year and you're going to 20 colleges that week, you're going to forget. You're going to be, which one had the campus with that dorm that I really liked? Take pictures, it'll make it much easier to remember and to sort of compare a little bit apples to apples. Number two, take notes. Take notes on your phone, dictate notes, take notes on a piece of paper. I don't care how you take notes, or take them in the car after the tour is over on your way back home or to the next college. Make sure you write stuff down. Again, you're going to forget. You may think you won't, but if you're seeing a lot of colleges, it'll all blur together. You want to write down, oh, this is the college where I talked to that professor who got me really excited about studying this topic. So take notes. And third is go in with questions already. So before you go, do a little homework, spend at least a few minutes on the college's website or looking at brochures. So you know, what kind of college am I going into? What do I want to know about it that I can't find from the website? Have a list of questions and don't be shy about asking them. That's what the tour guides are there for.
Do you have any advice on what those questions should look like?
Yeah, so, and this is a common piece of advice, don't ask questions that you can easily find on the college website. If you want to know how many students go here, Do you offer an American history major? Are the dorms co-ed? Do you have men's ice hockey? That stuff you can find out very quickly on the website. Don't waste time on those, not because it's going to upset the tour guides, but because you want to save that precious time for questions that you can't find on the website, because this is your one shot at getting those questions answered. And don't be afraid to ask uncomfortable or challenging questions like, let's say the tour guide is a rising junior or senior. Well, if you could change one thing about the college, what would it be? A common question that I hear people ask is, what other colleges were you choosing between when you were choosing this college, and what made you choose this college? You can ask, do you know anybody who's transferred out? And if so, why did they transfer? So ask those questions about sort of to try to figure out what are the downsides of being here, because they're going to be talking about all the great things that are there. They are ambassadors. They're often literally called ambassadors. So they're going to be telling you all the great stuff. It's okay to ask about the other side. One other thing, you might also want to ask questions that are very specific to you. If you have a very specific need because of a disability or a particular interest or something, that might be something that you wouldn't be able to find on the website. Like, I have a special diet. What is the food like for people who have that diet?
Virtual tours, which so many students are taking right now, it can be difficult to kind of get a sense of the community on campus like you were speaking about earlier. So do you have any advice for students to help them make the most out of their virtual tours?
Sure. And surprisingly, some of it is actually the same. Maybe not taking pictures, but definitely taking notes. And that's even easier to do because you're already at your device when you're on the virtual tour. Have a split screen or a second device or a window where you can be taking notes, or a piece of paper. You make sure that you get stuff out of it. And also, should be obvious, but pay attention. I know how it is. You're on screens. It's easy to say, oh, I'm going to just read that text. I'm just going to respond to that email while I'm on this tour. You're going to miss stuff. So put your other devices away, pay attention. Not so much because of being disrespectful, but just because you'll miss stuff. Take notes. Also, again, ask questions. Have questions in mind before the tour starts, assuming that it's a live tour or a live session, and ask those questions. If it's a recorded one, that doesn't really apply, but hopefully you'll have a chance to ask. And if it's a recorded one, you'll be able to find contacts that you can email and ask your questions with. So if you're like, oh, that was great, but they didn't cover this one thing that I really wanted to know, believe me, admissions people want to hear from you. Send them an email. If you don't hear back, call or try a different email address. There's often a specific admissions rep assigned to your region, your state, or your area, if you can track down who that person is. Especially during the pandemic, they are sitting at home like everybody else. They want to interact. They are not spending as much time on the road traveling as they normally would. So they're available to answer your questions.
Great. So if a student is set on a major, how can they kind of go about comparing that major at one school to the major at another school?
That's a great question. That takes digging a little bit more. Certainly on the college's website, college websites are all unique. They're all set up differently. They can be very challenging, but most of the time you can do a deeper dive into a major and find out what are the required courses for that major? What are the electives for that major? How is the major set up? What are the opportunities for internships and other things? How many professors are teaching in that major? Is it like 3 professors? Is it 10 professors? Kind of how deep does that department go? Do that research, kind of try to get a feel for what is this major going to be like? What is the department like? If you can't tell enough from that, reach out to folks. You can usually see at least a general address for that department, if not specific professors' email addresses and phone numbers. Another thing you could do is, if that major is associated with a particular profession, you might be able to find a professional organization that rates those colleges, that will say, these are some of the top colleges for that particular major. I wouldn't go to some of the major college rating websites. Those are not always completely as useful as going to something that's done by that profession.
Great. Now, speaking about money again, of course, students want to make money after college. They want to get good jobs after college, and they want to make sure that they have security there. So there are some websites like the College Scorecard, which is offered by the federal government, which students can go to kind of get a sense of their potential earnings and their likelihood of getting a job after graduating from one specific college. So to what extent should students be using the College Scorecard, and how effective or realistic is it?
I think it's a useful tool. It's only as good as the information that the sources like the colleges are giving them. But because it's put out by the government, I think it's relatively objective and unbiased as opposed to something that's put out, say, by a college that's going to be trying to make themselves look better than other colleges. So I think it's a relatively objective source of information. But again, it's only as good as the information that's given to you. The one thing I think that would be missing from a tool like that is trends. So if you're going into a field that doesn't really change very much, that hasn't changed in the last 10 years and probably isn't going to change that quickly, then that may be a fairly good predictor of, what can I expect to earn and so on. But you're looking maybe 4 years out, maybe 6 years out, because maybe you're going to get a master's and you're trying to guess how much am I going to make or what are the job prospects. What if you're going to a field like robotics or artificial intelligence that's rapidly changing? I don't think a tool like that is going to tell you, what am I going to get paid 4, 5, 6 years from now? And you also want to know, what are my job prospects? How good is the job market going to be when I graduate? You're going to have to look to get trends. You're going to have to read the news. You're going to have to go to industry publications, go to magazines, journals, websites that focus on the industry that you're going into and see, what are the trends? Are there more jobs over time? Are people getting laid off? If people are getting laid off in huge numbers, maybe now is not the best time to go into. That would be the other piece of information that you can't really see from a snapshot.
Absolutely. So now speaking about students' abilities to pay for college, would you ever advise a student to not apply to a school because of its average annual cost?
Not exactly. So as I said earlier, I wouldn't advise students to apply to a college they can't pay for. So if parents say, we can't pay more than X amount, don't pay for a college that's going to cost you more than X amount. But this is where it gets tricky, because when you go on the website, the first thing you see, or when you go to various websites that list college costs, you'll see the tuition, or even more importantly, the cost of attendance, the total cost, tuition, room and board, other fees. If you're going to a college that's far away, you've got to take into account travel. I'm going to be flying back and forth a few times a year. That total cost. Problem with that is that's just the sticker price. When you look at the price of a house or the price of a car, that's just a starting point. That doesn't mean that's your final cost. What are your chances for getting scholarships and financial aid? Your actual cost could be much, much lower than that. And there are sources that can help you figure out, what are my chances of getting aid? How much aid am I likely to get? What is my likely actual cost going to be? And that is going to vary depending on your financial situation and your academic proficiency and other accomplishments. So that's the piece that you need to look at. What am I likely to have to pay if I get accepted into this university? If it's still more than your family has to pay, and your family's either unable or unwilling to take out loans, or you don't want to take out loans to cover that gap, then no, don't apply there, because you don't want to get in and get all excited and have your parents say, no way, you're not going there, that's too expensive. That would be a huge waste of time and very upsetting.
So building off of that, once students get their acceptance letters back and their financial aid packages, comparing those can be confusing, figuring out the total amount of costs that you would actually have to spend to go to a certain school. So are there any online resources that students can use to help them analyze their financial aid packages and compare their offers?
Yeah, you can go to the federal financial aid websites, which will help you kind of decode that. And then there's another website, myfinancialaidletter.org, powered by the Heckinger report. You can upload your letter and it will sort of help you decode it. But unfortunately, even though there's been some pressure to standardize these letters, they can be very confusing in a number of ways. I won't go into detail into all the ways that they can be confusing, but you can always reach out to the financial aid department of the university and say, I'm confused. I'm not sure if this is a loan here. This number that I'm looking at, is that the final number? Then there's other questions you might have that you can't find other than from the university, such as, is this guaranteed all 4 years? This is great. I love this. It's a great scholarship, but what's it going to be next year and the year after that? That's really important. And you can't find that from a website. You can only find that out from the college itself. That might be in the letter or it might be ambiguous. You want a definitive answer. Is it renewable? And also, are there conditions to maintaining that scholarship over time? So if they say you're getting a merit scholarship of $25,000 a year, great. But you should know Do I have to maintain a certain GPA? Do I have to be enrolled for a certain number of credits? What are the conditions under keeping that scholarship? You wouldn't want a nasty surprise to find out that you're not getting it this year because your grades weren't high enough or something.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again, Dr. Endlich.
My pleasure. Bye.
If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And for more interviews like this, please subscribe. Have a great day, everyone.